Hi guys, thank you for congregating here and waiting for me patiently. I told everyone on the One Heather G page that it was going to be 2 p.m. and on the One Heather G, so I'm just trying to give everyone a moment. So give me just, I'm almost done. If you're new here, thank you for coming. If you've been here from the beginning, thank you for still being here. I started my professional career in the medical field.
So I was an administrator at Northwestern Hospital for multiple physicians, and we started off, or they started off in the fields, for me anyways, in the fields of endocrinology, rheumatology, and primary care, so internal medicine. I did diabetic education for them,
and I also did things that were considered clinical as well as administrative functions. What I mean by that is
injections. So patients would need
injections, vaccinations, blood draws. That's called phlebotomy. I worked in pretty much every capacity of a medical office, and that starts with vitaling. Well, in literal terms, it starts with checking in a patient. So you guys walk into your doctor's office and there's someone sitting in the front desk. I've sat in that position. I've sat in the position of office manager and everything in between, from the front end to the back end other than the doctor. So I have done pretty much everything in a medical office that you can think of that makes the medical office
run effectively and efficiently. And I'm very grateful for all of those
years experience. I'm actually currently right now applying to 1,000,001 jobs, not literally, obviously. I average between 50 and 300 resumes that I send out a month.
I'm looking for a remote position in medical billing and coding or coding. And I was also interested in looking for sponsors who will help me start up my own practice. I know there are a lot of physicians who have lost or been left out
of collecting a lot of money for services that have already been rendered, and I would love to help you, go after that money. That doesn't mean you're going after your patients. It means that you are adjusting your billing and your coding so that the insurance will cover it. And a lot of doctors don't have a lot of experience with that, especially in the days before most physicians were starting to work with corporations like Northwestern, Edwards, Presence, just to name a few. So in those larger capacities, there are billing departments who usually do a really good job. They're pretty much highly effective at knowing what to bill, how to bill it to get the maximum reimbursement. I personally am really great at doing so, mostly because of the experience I have in the clinical setting. But if you are a private physician, a plastic surgeon, or a dermatologist, it would be more of a learning curve, but I could definitely take it on. I'm used to more clinical, things, because when we're going after insurances for reimbursement, most of the time, unless it's as an effect of some sort of mistake during an original plastic surgery or a cancer or something of that nature, and you need reconstructive, the insurance will not cover it. So dermatology and plastic surgery is more elective. and insurance is not going to cover that much. But for all the rest of the doctors who are working in any other sort of specialty, gastroenterology, internal medicine, endocrinology, rheumatology, neurology, urology, what else? I said gastroenterology, neurology, endocrinology, rheumatology, internal medicine, urology, and pretty much ENT, ear, nose, and throat doctors. If you guys are any of those physicians or you are a sponsor, those are the types of physicians that I would be able to, get reimbursement from insurances. Those are all medical doctors that are not elective procedures for the most part. And as I said, especially in these smaller doctors' offices, they need help. They need help.
The smaller doctors' offices need help. They're not getting reimbursed. And let me explain why. I have a lot of insight that you might not have. If you're a sponsor,
this is for you. And then we'll get into my background apart from professionally. So about 15, maybe even closer to 20 years ago, we began to implement electronic medical records. And when we began to do so, we gave people about 5 years total to get on board. And the United States government began fining these people tremendously. So if you were a doctor and you had your own practice and you were not able to switch to an EMR, which stands for electronic medical record, or an EHR, electronic health record, the government started saying, well, maybe the private insurances will still pay you, but we're not going to. So, and they have their reasons. I'm not going to get into that. But for the doctors, it became incredibly difficult to keep up with their patient loads, to keep the lights on in these offices, to continue paying back their student loan debt if they had any, and to remain in the green, so to speak. This is why most of the corporations, Northwestern, Edwards, Presence, Rush, just to name a few, were able to acquire these physicians. No one really wants to go to the corporate world from their own private office because you make your rules, you make your schedule. In corporate, you have quotas. So it's very business-like. If you don't see a certain number of patients, you are either punished or let go or replaced or moved to a part-time basis without benefits or any number of things in a lot of instances. So the doctors who could not keep up with the demand, they ended up, being forced into early retirement in a lot of these instances.
Now, if you were able to hang on, and there are a certain number of them who have been able to hang on, who do need help. A lot of them are eye doctors. A lot of them, smaller eye doctors. And a lot of them have billing going back 10, 20 years ago. They're not going to get all of the reimbursement on that, but there is room and opportunity for reimbursement on a lot of the past 5 to, I believe, 7 years.
It might be 6 though. And the way we would do that is just simply by reviewing their medical records. So you get the bill that's rejected, the patient gets a copy and the doctor gets a copy. And we make a contract with the doctor that basically says, we would like to represent your practice with regards to billing and coding. We'd like to remove it from the in-house setting. I can do it remotely from wherever I am. And we basically have all of those rejected claims forwarded to me.
And I would go over them. I would need access to the EMR. I would go into the patient's chart. It could be a read only. It needs to be a read only so that there is no risk of any changes being made to the chart. What then happens is I review the doctor's notes. I
look at what was billed and I connect the dots. Okay, this was not paid for because this diagnosis code is asthma and you're billing an issue of the retina, so obviously the insurance is going to say nope and reject it automatically. Now, what happens with these doctors is they don't have time to look through these claims. When they don't have time to look through these claims, there are hundreds of thousands of dollars of reimbursement they are owed that are stacking up. And as time passes, they forfeit that money. So they would really benefit from a person like myself to provide a service where I can go through these claims. And there might already be an AI function for this. If there is, oh my God, what do I do for money? No, I'm just kidding. But for real though, where you just go by the patient's diagnoses and match them to diagnosis codes that match the payout. And AI is going to have this all in their systems already because AI is EMR, right? So electronic medical record, that's AI integrations to electronic medical records. They translate throughout. They speak the same code, right? That's computer language for you. So it's really dynamic, but a lot of these doctors did not get paid. And what we can do is simply have those claims forwarded to us and match them with a diagnosis code and procedure code, CPT, ICD, that match each other for reimbursement. And it's a no risk type of situation because we're not asking for hourly rates for myself as the employee. We're asking for commission-based incentive only. So only when the doctor gets reimbursed would I be paid, and it would be a percentage. The reason I'm asking for sponsors is because I need some equipment that will make for a safe environment for me to do this. I need a computer. It could even be a Chromebook, I think. I'm pretty sure Chromebooks are that advanced now that they can run these extensions and software, and have open API integrations. I might be wrong. But I'm pretty sure they can run EMRs and EHRs through a Chromebook. If I'm wrong on that, I know there are laptops in the comparable price range as Chromebooks that can do it. So, the sponsor comes in where I need setup cost, and also some marketing would be great. But I do have doctor friends myself who I can email and let them know this is what I'm doing now, and they can tell, people that they know. So I do kind of have a leg in the door, so to speak, when it comes to this field, and specifically in the Chicago and Chicagoland area. I do also know some people who work for pharmaceutical and medical device sales who I can, share the word with, and they can tell other people respectively. The medical field is a big world, also very small. And I do have a very great reputation in the medical field. I don't have any issues there. I've never been reprimanded. I've never been asked to leave. I've never been accused of anything, nefarious. So I have a stellar recommendation when it comes to the medical field. GoPro Solo was born after I left the medical field. I began working in the medical field in 2005, and I stayed there until 2015. And then I went back and forth a little bit. I did some work in 2016, and I did some consulting and just general advice after that. But my full-time employment was from 2005 to 2015 in the medical field, for the most part. So where did I start? It's a funny story. Actually, my first full-time job in the medical field was right after I finished First Institute, which was a course through the government for medical billing, coding, medical law and ethics, HIPAA, and all of these things. And it was a free course for young single moms that was subsidized through the government in Lombard, Illinois. And I learned a lot there. It was a full-time, so I would be there, a full-time course. I would be there all day from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And we would have homework, and we would, do a lot of studying during that time. But we learned all of the things that I needed to know to do administrative function. I then started college for nursing after taking a 9-month certified medical assisting and phlebotomy course. So then I was already a year into the medical field when I transferred to community college for another 2 years of studying when I transferred to AIU, American Intercontinental University, AIU, and that was where I started applying credits towards a 4-year degree. There have also been many other schools, and, fitness certifications, nutrition and fitness through NCCPT, ISSA. NASM, I have completed all of the coursework for. I did not take the test. I did take tests for NCCPT as well as ISSA. So I have all 3 of the National Personal Training certification courses completed. I've read the books cover to cover. I've done all of the coursework. And it's pretty much the same thing. You don't have to memorize it because most of the time people are not asking you to give them a diagram of every muscle group, right? That's not what you need to practically apply lessons of personal training. You need to have access to the knowledge, and you need to have completed the knowledge if you advertise that you've completed the knowledge, and that's why someone is taking you as a trainer. But you can train legally in the United States without even having any of that. So I do have all of that, and that's my plan. So sponsors, if you're here, that's where I'm trying to go with regards to business. I have a newborn son named Weston.
And I have 3 big kids, 10, 15, and 17. I have been homeless for the past since 2020. I spent 2020
to 21 living in the backseat of my vehicle or Airbnbs. I spent 2021 to 22 living on people's couches, friends' houses, applying to jobs, driving DoorDash, working for LA Fitness, working for Export. All of these jobs were very short term and did not really lead to the career paths that I was, hoping for. The entire time I continued doing GoPro Solo, which is my own production company that I created from the humble beginnings of webcam performer. So somehow
I went from being an administrator at a very prestigious hospital to being a webcam performer. And there's a backstory there for sure. I've written blog posts about it at Merciful Storm. You guys can read that. I'll link that on this video in the comments of this video or in the description of this video when I'm done. But it was a period of tremendous darkness for me, a lot of darkness. And I'm not telling people what to do with their lives, but I am going to say that for me, working on a webcam was actually not, in a sexy capacity, was not good.
Just like, what do you think happens with most people who work in any sort of capacity that's sexual for a long period of time? You start being targeted, you start being degraded, you start to dislike yourself, and either you are forced into this world of darkness or you grip on to whoever you were before you started for dear life and run in the opposite direction. And that was what was going on for me. It was just not for me. I made a little bit of money doing it, and I enjoyed being self-employed, but GoPro Solo was the way that I could take my humble beginnings of Cam Girl into a much larger, region and purpose
and vision for myself. Doing statement modeling. I don't know if you guys have seen the Kanye West photo shoot where he went to speak, I believe it was kids at Columbia College here in Chicago, Illinois. He went to speak to these kids and he wore a Hanes white shirt, white sweater, similar to the one I have on, but it was all white. And he hand wrote with a Sharpie, Kaepernick. Referring to Colin Kaepernick. And at the time, if you're familiar with what was going on with the national anthem and Colin Kaepernick, Kanye was showing support for that issue. He was also wearing a red and white MAGA hat, Make America Great Again, which at the time was heavily influenced by the president at the time, Donald Trump. And there was this huge outcry over it. It was on all of these social media platforms. It was getting all of this attention in hip hop news and just in general. I think WGN was talking about it like online. So there was a lot of mixed reaction to his fashion statement. And I, at the time, was doing GoPro Solo statement modeling. And I decided to recreate the outfit pantsless. And I was wearing, a one-piece kind of bodysuit, but it was like a thong bodysuit, and I put fishnet stockings on, and I had, a long wig, and I put the hat on, and I staged the wall behind me to be all of these other demographics of groups of people, Habibi, a brick wall. I put handcuffs on, a family, like a family of 4, like this picture perfect, family of 4, a family on a yacht, some poor people, all of these different cultures, demographics, races, causes. I put them all behind me, and I put this outfit on, and I wrote Kaepernick, and I put the hat on, and I put the bodysuit on, and I took these photos in handcuffs. And the significance
as it's referred to as statement modeling, was number one, what it meant to me,
but number two, what it meant to my audience. And at this time, Coco Chanel YSL had 50 or 60,000 followers, just on Instagram alone. So that's not including all of the platforms that I was actually camming on. But there were probably close to hundreds of thousands of people who were consuming my content
at any given time during those years. And so I wanted to take being, sexy and do something with that following. I had people paying attention. Attention is the currency, as we all say. Now, what do I do with it? And so I started to transition GoPro Solo from a sexy platform where we're like, shaking our butt and wearing thongs and no pants, to a more clothed platform that was speaking louder and more in your face about things that we found important. And by we, I mean my peer group, the internet, my children and their friends, my parents and their friends. So I, as a 29-year-old young woman, I have the very unique but not so unique perspective of not only seeing things through my own eyes, but getting that call from your dad that's like, Heather, what is this on the internet? What are you doing? And my dad barely even knows how to use the internet. So that's saying something. If it made it to him, it's reaching people, right? And also my children, who range in age from now being a newborn all the way to 17 years old. So there's so many generations, my grandmother, my sister, my mom, and there's so many generations that have perspective that I can listen to and I can learn from. And so I wanted to use GoPro Solo to make statements about the way we all are living and where the world is going from the perspective of these various
eyes and these various audience demographics. And for me, that Kanye West photo shoot, the Donald Trump, Kanye West, sort of many vids, cam soda, it meant nothing to do with being sexy. It was the opposite. It was like,
I'm in handcuffs here because I felt so oppressed. I felt like all of these girls working in this field can't get out and they're trapped there. And so they have no choice but to take their pants off and pose for a photo like this in order to get your attention. And Donald Trump and his Make America Great Again, and Colin Kaepernick and refusing the national anthem, and how far we've come as a country in positive and negative, right? We want equality in the sense that we all have opportunity and we can all live and grow and be happy and healthy. But we don't have that still. And we want opportunity for all, but we're trapping women, young women and young men into this identity of bisexual or get out, bisexual or don't receive payment. And I'm saying, fuck you, put your pants on. We can find another way. It's received a lot of blowback. There's been a lot of haters who make most of their money shaking butt. That's what they do. And I'm very spiritual and religious as well, and I always have been. I never lost connection to God when I was doing all of that. I just didn't pray. I just didn't have time to nourish that relationship. My belief system never changed. I always knew it was wrong, but I felt trapped financially. I felt like I needed to be doing this to pay my bills, and there's a whole bunch of backstory. As I said, I'm writing a novel. I'm on page 457, handwritten, because every time I sit down to type it, someone alters the language. So I'm waiting on another sponsor to offer me a protected device so that I can complete this project. And if that's you, please find and contact me. I'm desperate to get this story completed. I've been working on it for 7 years now. Maybe more. I also have written a thesis on post-traumatic stress disorder that I would love to publish. I have a lot of perspective to offer, and I would love to publish it in a formal setting. And I know that it can generate income, and I have a lot of ideas that can generate income. But GoPro
Solo was never meant to generate income. GoPro Solo was meant to send a message. GoPro Solo was sent to funnel attention. GoPro Solo was meant to share perspective. And If you look at this page, this is just a fraction, a small fraction of all of the photo shoots that I've
been involved in, curated, and created and directed and produced. There are many, many more, but GoPro Solo is where I am collecting, the ideas, and where I'm using it as a think board, a think tank, a place for conversation and perspective, as I said, to see what the next steps are and to curate for my own, topics of conversation and what I think are important for my personal blog, which is One Heather G.
Mercifulstorm.com is another page here on Instagram that I created in 2020. There's Do You Doll.
There is HLG Forever _. There is the number one Heather GEE. So that was my very, very
first blog following